we decided we're going to ask Glenn to go ahead and do Karaoke. Good luck, and remember, it's only half my fault.
So the good news is we're setting goals for 2012. Brian submitted his to me late, and I haven't yet reviewed them. So this will be fantastic. All right.
There are builds, so just be wary. Don't click too fast.
What?
Straight out of Steven's head, I can't wait.
All right. Wow. I'm ready for that. Okay. How can one stay productive and participate in social media? This is an incredibly important part of the point for all of us as an agency and every single one of you individually. So I have a couple thoughts for you. First and foremost is caffeine is critical. Who's a Starbucks fan? Dunkin' Donuts fan? Anything else? Any critical, and how about tea if we're not looking for the coffee? Red Bull is critical, as we've seen from some of the outtakes. So what's fascinating about this is if you look at the minutes of consumption in coffee, and that's on the left axis, which is called y-axis for those who are basic math, and the placebo or decaf effect on the right, you'll see a fascinating correlation. What's interesting is that you'll look at the circle is the placebo versus caffeine, whereas decaf versus coffee is what the triangle is. Placebo versus caffeine is the other aspects. What's fascinating about this, check out Slotkin in 1998 of where that places. Ginger and Scott in 1995 is fascinating, and Houston, even in her pregnant state now, long ago in 1978, was way much higher, which means that there are substantially more caffeine per consumption a minute versus the placebo effect. So that's fascinating. What's interesting is that Purple Martin, the same as coffee, is really a question. Well, if you start in the morning at T minutes of 15 seconds or 15 minutes before you wake up, it's actually not true. And in fact, what we've seen from CEO Challenge number 1 is after 180 minutes of the Purple Martin exposure, it is equivalent to 250 milliliters of water. In this case, this is the Dasani containers you can probably see. 75 grams of Alorno Doodle and 15 minutes to eat. Interestingly, the other part of the effect is we took the Starbucks with the lid off, and it's at a slight angle because that's absolutely critical for this sequence. And you'll see that you're way more into the upper end of the spectrum, more like 200, 215 minutes. And in fact, that's only 5 minutes to ingest with the Venti, which is that big-ass thing that you probably haven't seen unless you go into Starbucks. It is a little bit frightening. It makes you shake a little bit. And notice the bird. That's critical. What else do we know? There are 7 easy steps to building the footprint. This is better than any man cave that takes a while and gets shut down in different towns throughout the city, where it starts small off a picture, and then you might ask, why in God's name would I ever go into a Home Depot and say, can I build this? And they say yes, and then you go back 5 times. The average is 3. Sometimes some take 5 or 7. But anyway, number 1 is there is this whole set of I'm building something, there's corners, and I think the theme is don't push me because I'm close to the edge, which is critical. Number 2 is I'm trying not to lose my head. Number 3, it is like a jungle out there. Notice the rope and the icon around that. It does make me wonder if you build something with no door and you actually can't get in. You should think about that from the social media standpoint. It's a jungle that makes me wonder. Notice that rhyme. That's a critical part of social media is the iambic pentameter notion of blog posts. And I can't go under, even if there's a spelling mistake, but we know that's where Brennan comes in, but that's okay because he's in technology. We do love him. There are 100 reasons not to be this guy, and I'm going to read them from the top, so bear with me. Number 1 is I think sometimes presentation format and colors aren't exactly right. You may reference exactly what colors to use. There's this fantastic agency called Digital Influence Group that's created something called My Colortopia. It'll help you coordinate what's the right color for actually the specific mood. It'll also help you with the font size, which sometimes, basically, if it's anything smaller than 30, we don't recommend it, which is a big part in the takeaway. On the bottom, what this says is D equals MC squared. That's potentially the most important thing. It's supposed to be E. It says D. That's okay. Spell check doesn't work when it's that small. What else? From an enterprise standpoint of CRM, it is fascinating. Macaroni and cheese tends to pop to the top. We do know that social media targets kids, and anybody that believes it goes after CEOs or organizations may be missing that a little bit. Mobile's really important because no one sits still. ADD is a critical part of What we focus on, chickens and poultry versus beef, is critical. You see a variety of parts here. I think Beckham is fascinating. The tattoos are fascinating. His personal decisions, he's not going over to Europe. He's staying here. In fact, he's one of the most followed soccer, or in this case, football fans, which I think is critical. And you'll see the smallness actually doesn't relate to his skill. He's more of enterprise level and big. A couple other things there that I'll leave and they'll leave behind, but I think that's useful. One of the fastest growing languages in the country, as you know, is actually Chinese, or Mandarin in that aspect. This title on the top actually translates to something that I don't think is appropriate in a public setting, so I won't share it. What is important is if you look at what happened with the Berlin Wall, that's a huge part of social footprint. It started then and it came down, and here what this basically says is, actually I'm going to ask Claudio, who is an expert, could you just translate this, because I think you know exactly what this means.
Okay, that says you should hire Dick.
You should hire Dick. Excellent. And that's an entrance, and on the exit from the Shawshank Redemption, certainly one of my favorite movies of all time. Mr. Babineau, this translates to?
Crawl through the sewer to find freedom.
It actually says crawl before you walk.
Oh, right.
But
The northern dialect.
so now we're back to caffeine. And what is better than making creative people happy? I've never seen Dave Chung so happy that when we put this coffee machine in the kitchen, he thanks me more for this than anything else for the agency. That's cool. I can deal with that. Again, we have coffee, and there's 8 selections. Sometimes we got to work on the pixel size because it's hard to know exactly what that is. But that's okay, because this is all about social media. What's interesting is that you do have to shift your mindset. You have to go from left to right, always. If it's from to, that makes no sense. It has to go from to, from left to right. Left is over here. Remember that axis. We haven't done enough. To, it'll probably be fine. How profound is that? To, the team is completely in sync. Many people misspell sync. It says C or an S-I-N-K. To, no, I actually haven't talked to the team, which is absolutely classic marketing and account management skill set. It's those who have grown up in that. Just make a decision. Don't bother about the rest of the team. Creative will deal with it. And on the left, let me quickly find out is one way to think about it. Or I actually don't know. Let's just hope that the sky is falling. The technology team will build it, which is, God bless them, why they're there at the end of the line. We love them. So if you think about the old go-to-market plan, this is how much of the industry has been built to date. It does start left to right. You'll see a variety of the different aspects. There's engineering skills that's critically important. But actually what's way more important is that notice the change. Notice the power of the new plan. Notice how it resonates to what we should do and what we shouldn't do. Notice how easy this is for the individuals as part of the team. And that's really what it's all about. 7 steps, highly effective people. Make sure you go to Home Depot. Don't just take a picture in there. Actually plan it. Watch out for caffeine and always spell check. Thank you very much.